obscure, on and off the beaten path, left naked and insecure, torn between the two folds of old soul and immature, in a state of chronic dysfunction which seems to have no cure. The blemishes and the flaws shine like they're pure. Regardless of a symphony's allure, be sure you check your sympathies at the door. Live from the unknown, pain emanating through the bones. I sit upon a throne of the same sticks and stones, thrown from the confines of a glass home, the collapse of which came with a meteoric tone, and echoed off every single mural that was whacked. Cracks appear, all that is visible turns to black, languishing in a realm of all the things I lack. And now it's got me smoking on that will to live pack. Fell onto the wrong track, bleeding and prone. The once vibrant collage is reduced to monochrome. The latest hope and dream becomes a dust collecting tome in a skeleton filled closet where lights never roamed. An epitome of failure circles the drain all alone. Just another two-bit hack letting out labored groans. Cast fame into the flames, stability's the goal. Need to find alternatives to being raked over coals. Composer in the Stygian, guarded in a nesting, hunched by a light. On parchment I am questing, marred in dark arts, carving through the settings. This is not suitable for barbecues and weddings. I walk out the black fog and rest my head on the obscure, at the outskirts of nowhere with a war to endure, on and off the beaten path, left naked and insecure, torn between the two folds of old soul and immature, in a state of chronic dysfunction which seems to have no cure. The blemishes and the flaws shine like they're pure. Regardless of a symphony's allure, be sure you check your sympathies at the door. One man's false god is another man's excuse for hatred. In defiled lands where only corruption stands sacred, putting up high walls and still feeling vagrant, whether begging on the streets or they really did make it. Rotten spectacles are fenced in and soured. Malignant dispositions have a penchant for power. Unquestioned answers over unanswered questions are a common constant as the preference for cowards in the infinite pain Olympics. Fire and ice showers, and every waking moment feels like the final hour. Flesh and blood is reduced to an ossified surface, while learning not to envy the ogre-eyed serpents who turn staying alive to a monetized service, but still stand to suffer as the bombs the ride circuits, while tap dancing through all the traumatized currents, with the arts doubling as a homicide deterrent, living on poison ground where very little grows, surviving sudden death with a kaleidoscope of woes, deferred revolution while being thrashed to and fro. When will the insurgent winds of change erode the status quo? Until then, we bottom out, yet it's all downhill from there. Every waking moment is a shrouded will in despair. Atrocities the guilds did, gilded in golden speech, rusted everything from the top to the bottommost reach. The elites fester, unfettered at the peak, corrupted down to the letter. The powers that A to Z, and it's not concrete whether I a rose or a weed, but there is a dire need to rise through the pavement. This is my thesis statement. I'm an antinomian, double sacrosanct, 1000 cut inflicting procogen and macro shake, designing grits that will rip with the weighty tense, tomes manifested in a form for the aliens, colorful linguistics painted profane gradients, mass murder machine well hidden by an alias, corpses write the corpus, see the grand salient, with all the dead sapiens in the margins of my habeas, imbued with the souls of its sacrificial treasury. The rhythm is the altar which begins the recipe, megalithic soundscapes worked into weaponry. The laid works on canvas came separately, which exile the obsolete to their scorn of destiny. The most seasoned vet sounds tasteless, drowned in a reddened sea, yet the visceral notations that were embedded peaked. Onlookers who witnessed the chorus's wretched reach, painting the imagery of nightmares soon to be etched in sleep. Ultra-violent horror swarms of the monsters in the weak expanses of carnage is a way to battle, test a beat that can bite the hand that feeds, so even the best will bleed. So when the bestaments surround my sound and diction, testaments and howling visions, let them know the excrement has left the realm of fiction. Sit upon a throne of ashes and dead thugs, with a style nastier than cockroaches and bedbugs. Gutter oil, trench mouth, total libation, gangrene tidal wave vocalization, in a fortress of feedback and percussion, the hound strafe. A muddy knife wound bone record soundscape, with pot shots chambered in the jaw. Hot spots endangered under martial law. Banshee whisper screams out the maw. Every proposition greeted with hell no. Satin dialect and sprawl, all fall to reverse tongue, turned Gombe war raw, butchered and mixed into a hideous victim. Broke the image down to the very last pixel. This scenario is slowly refracted through a crystal, projecting the scene of a beating with a pistol, and a steel-skinned Komodo dragon with a mane of flames, death rolling in an abyss full of cybernetic pit bulls. Shriveling my shadow matter, you will never shine or spark. Long beat, flat line from your body, your soul is primed apart. Talk like a tough guy, even rhymed apart, but the autopsy shows you never had a spine or heart. Meteor-guided chariot carrying a kid's spectacle tears air, aims flames via glade-shaped reticle, supercell plug blicks discharging buckshot riffs, makes you go from generating to becoming static, shocked stiff. Lightning and thunder grunts strum through your stratus as a blunderbuss orchestra plays out your status. Don's traumas hooked on lines, riding the baseline Grata soot-caked rind, hiding its face, doing snare free falling in Galanti body pose. I'm the tri-state tornado chanting mustard gas bros. Clear sky still grayscale through overcast death strokes of captured rainbows injected with 6 zeros in their hex codes. The trap behind flaming bars that worm through, a sentence that transitions from third-degree felonies to burn wounds. Infinite language with flawless gold text that catches flack for what's mapped in its lossless codex, eviscerated by the verbal architecture. Volunteering your soul as a multi-purple heart collector. My gun's so big, they didn't know we were beefing in the barrel. They can't find me, they're seething in peril. I slip out the slider, slither down the hair trigger side. Trip the hammer, action answered, all aboard, fit to fry. Machinery snaps to life in an act of a violent ring, cremated by muzzle flash. Their ash adorns the rifling. Machinery snaps to life in an act of a violent ring, cremated by muzzle flash. Their ash adorns the rifling. Back alley slaughter, a whisper, a thud, nickel bags, muzzle flash, a river of blood that goes bump in the night. Soft under lights becomes a sum of gunfire dumped in a fight. A funeral later, the bloody hands are spotted. Retribution, violently accosted, block buried in bodies before the end of outburst. Pyrrhic victory, victims in RIP shirts. Decayed philosophy propped up by poverty, color-coded conflicts and crossfire quandary, despairing atmosphere, beating fears grander, bullets riddle bodies without clear answers. Desperation of rabid gnashing teeth, preparation in the rapids of these clashing streets, in the bottom of a cracked piper, bad company. Over-shoulder looks wonder who's on the hunt for me. Sketchy figures living in the margins, canvas or some paper. Draw quicker victims in the system outlined in their caper. Max to the cap chamber, ring cycle pumps, gat blast to the back, singing a high note haunts. The otherwise gentle air of a cooler when unite another statistic dies underneath city lights. Forgotten and invisible was the abandoned pauper, once a life full of nuance, reported like cannon fodder. A wall of false broad cloaking leeches felt gas, I'm holding a pump, then he met his match and I blown the pieces. Ran on E, became a G, but was folding in his shell, trying to flip M's to W's, but was rolling to an L. Hits from a 4, 5th, and 9, and a slug from a shot. The summary of bullet points that form the outline of a body. His best failed the test, two best, the eternal rest. 3 holes in the chest, the ellipsis of a last breath. Death, shadowed, unwitting meal tickets. The most cold-blooded types even feel timid. Bloodlettings on concrete, corpses feed weeds. Choruses of voices, assailants unseen. High five drive-bys or a knife fight. High glow of automatic stubble is a nightlight. One man's life is another man's stripe, is another man's revenge plot and his third strike. Apathetic deity, venerated in the slang, both opaque and blurry, demonstrated in the name. Asphalt pedestals, sacrifices snuffed voices, sidewalks and graffiti, besieged with scuffed choice. Turns some to bean hood and ultras being hot plates. Turns atheists to prayer and apostles to apostates. Steeples and frescoes with people in death throes, poison the benevolence. See the evil infest those who grow in its presence, sprouting up a pain past. Tried to escape but found all the lanes trash. Chaos innate ingrained by insane laughs. Vignettes of death meshed in stained glass. Concrete and material, yet separate the meanest streets from the greenest peaks.
Devil on the block, rolling through with a haunting wail, mouth watering with a poacher's grill, feasting on the frail assail. From behind a wall of azure, all the shot callers turning tail to no avail, drinking out their skulls like it's a grail. Devil on the block, rolling through with a haunting wail, mouth watering with a poacher's grill, feasting on the frail assail. From behind a wall of azure, all the shot callers turning tail to no avail, drinking out their skulls like questing through the free fire zone, ready to spill blood, uninhibited. My slugs are intimate when they seek out and kill thugs, all falling down with a tire screech, a bang, and a laugh. Life stolen, plus they had a chain I can have. Irrigate the ground when a victim's jugular is blown open. Firepower destined to make the next of kin soul broken. Incantations encoded language with my own form of omerta, emitter, upgrade, reaper, every bit of oppression. Dull, tear the dirty, worthless scum to pieces. Their value was so specious, irrelevant. Another statistic as the body count increases. Massacres, malevolent murders multiplied massively. Menaces the premises, I'm the nemesis that has to be. Underworld minded, snatching anybody up off the street. Nefarious occult brotherhood, putting all ops to sleep. Invoke a body bag, business boom every time I make a sweep. To beef with me is an uphill battle, that incline is steep. You who dare step to me will be destroyed if you speak. Devil on the block, rolling through with a haunting wail, mouth watering with a poacher's grill, feasting on the frail assail. From behind a wall of azure, all the shot callers turning tail to no avail, drinking out their skulls like it's a grail. Devil on the block, rolling through with a haunting wail, mouth watering with a poacher's grill, feasting on the frail assail. From behind a wall of azure, all the shot callers turning tail to no avail, drinking out their skulls like it's a grail. The ops can only watch in shock as our shots whistle, either puts him in a grave or have him rushed to the hospital. Went from the had a bright future to God rest his soul. I'm playing a game of how many bullets can a human body hold, and parlaying it with a guess of alive or dead on arrival. Their last moments on this earth were torn between fear and bile. Torture, drive them to insanity's peak. Burrow, weevil, millimeter, carving up a family tree. Allies knock you off your axis, bullets bring out more and gore. Shooting 1945s, call that an ending to a world war. Gang, you weak meeks can't hang. Murder, another disposable slain. We run it all, the block is ours, we take everything in sight. Choke them out and let them know I took a man down tonight. Now they wanna stay mid, I'm in PR mode. I recite as I straighten out my badge. I feared for my life.
Chauvinist pig. 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 Chauvinist. Chauvinist. Chauvin. Chauvin.
An empty suit sings a callous ballad laced sounds with othering. The media cycle keeps the populace face down and smothering through colorful commercials full of tirades and promises, and a trendy enemy the audience admonishes. A pair of putrefied eyes clutch the nuclear football, the power to plunge the whole world of practicing their soot crawl. For now they lionize violent times with vibrant lies, buzzed off the smoke of scorched flesh while the pilot flies, giving gifts from civilization that break their own codes of conduct. Salivate at the thought of all the boats the bombs struck. Saber rattlers, it is every brawn addict's vice to ship kids to crossfire with every pawn sacrificed. It's cashed in like the most rotten form of courtship, and its massive hype packaged in a cult of corpse worship made by sin the crypts, propped up by the syndicates. Stand as monuments to the jingoist follies where they send the kids while empty bellies vote to keep their party with the full clip, casted ballots, shipping bullets by the pallet from the pulpit. Soldiers of fortune in black gold remove, solder to the orcs tune that acts so behoove. Criminalize the homeless as billions go overseas, darker skin, posed to bleed, inscribed by notaries, stamped and approved in every genocide signature, a collage of bloody hands, which rinse and hide ligatures, tied to inhumane industrialized pilfering. Avarice grasps at resources and swills and rings to its gullet, while brainwashing drips off the lips. Sits bloated while the whole world is cooked on a spit. Spoil system in the mix, so all crooks get their fix. Civilians slip and fall from power trips of the rich. Batten down the hatches, they battle with their hatchets. Message in a bottle that hatches as the black smoke rises and matches. Dark clouds that hover over war-torn patches, or hovels of the groveling masses who sacrifice life, limb, and children. Get to see the few who will win. Those at the summit keep power that still flashes, regardless of whatever the dominating flag is. It's ultimately depicting through the rubble classes who end up being bashed in by the madness. Elite sponges hungry for blood to spill with a wet resonance. Counterfeit empathy for common folk with just sentiments. Disgraced waste waits with bated breath, fated and gets estimates of which of the hated fraternities is voted best pestilence. It's time to set precedence. Choice was between a walking corpse, a useless cop, a man-child, and his pet president. Leopards eating faces party have a Valhalla meal. Accelerationist ecstatic that this action will not yield. Cloak and dagger, mystic slathered, obsec passer out to pasture, spoken staggered with a haggard swagger on the secrets master, caster of black magic or secular subterfuge as plastered across the cracked static whispers of the utter few who scattered backwards to shadow niches, which is the realm for hidden phantoms, witches, cryptids, and more that live upon the forbidden anthems. Ninja pirate, radio, fit common subterraneans, rejected by convention, every brutal hub spurred aliens to retribution, to covert entry, building deep infinity, true destitution of which bred the sin that fed all of the leagues, the rogues, galleries of misfits that are packed into a seam of schemes that seem sinister, evoking the bizarre and unseen, conspiring to infiltrate, usurping all acts in between the stages, now made of seditious missions and subversive teams. You don't have to be the case if you never catch one. You don't have to be the case if you never catch one. You don't have to be the case if you never catch one. You don't have to be the case if you never catch one. They'll be gone in the dark, a mirage of grand chasms that a dredge cannot clean. Visions of a blur and a spark like camouflage phantasms at the edge of a dream. They'll be gone in the dark, a mirage of grand chasms that a dredge cannot clean. Visions of a blur and a spark like camouflage phantasms at the edge of a dream. For underground below with the dead rot within the bedrock, avoiding the aim of red dots and both kinds of headshots. Raised fists multiply to incognito ensembles, rusts the iron-handed plan that the strong fondles, undetected imagery that's clad in black or simple mimicry, from petty crimes to felonies, the warfare of asymmetry. The invisibles embark on quests of varied goals and motives, from the penny-pitching plots to the ones who sold explosives. The perfect escapade or maladroit exploits to execute by recidivism warriors or those who are fresh and new. Forward out a shady trench, drenched thick in deep cover maneuvers, shrouded by the darkness they commence before the dawn or the rooster. Daggers, hackers, silencers, violence for sleeping enemies. A breach of data, lethal whistleblower of the century, jump broken software prior to the raid, the wave and entry fee. Assassins and counterfeiters behind wicked telemetry, bombarded headquarters, the forgers and the paper terrorists at local and national levels that generate errors which create a clogosphere that goes along with all the other chaos, in and out exfiltration, a host of ghost
made off into the horizon, fattened up from their slick and clever story, or back into the mysterious abyss forevermore. They'll be gone in the dark, a mirage of grand chasms that a dredge cannot clean. Visions of a blur and a spark like camouflage phantasms at the edge of a dream. They'll be gone in the dark, a mirage of grand chasms that a dredge cannot clean. Visions of a blur and a spark like camouflage phantasms at the edge of a dream. To the beat of no one's drum, oblique rung, askew and speaks of crumbs, their peaks glum. Pain silhouetted apparition, holder of a shouldered past position. Never fit into the rat's race, stepper out of tune, lax pace. Pluto orbit, heterodox, recluse, pseudo-human screws in the head loose. Exsanguinated vitality in public quarters, aura arcane misconfigured, lockstep schlep, ebbing toward a insular safe haven, maven of the fine art of evasion. Day in, day out, eggshell unicycle, tightrope walk, small talk, gaff prone outside the hidden refuge, sometimes mistaken for a panic-ridden deaf mute. Wallflower shiver and shakes, quivers in place, in the face of the smallest gestures, withers and breaks. To the beat of no one's drum, oblique rung, askew and speaks of crumbs, their peaks glum. Pain silhouetted apparition, holder of a shouldered past position. Never fit into the rat's race, stepper out of tune, lax pace. Pluto orbit, heterodox, recluse, pseudo-human screws in the head loose. Shrunken violets form from old wounds, blemished like the surface of a cold moon. Cactus-skinned introvert that holds true, unseen on the grapevine that molds views. Burned by years of chaos and torment, learned isolation to avoid the torrents. Chance to connect seems forever dormant. Made attempts to trust but could never form it. To the beat of no one's drum, oblique rung, askew and speaks of crumbs, their peaks glum. Pain silhouetted apparition, holder of a shouldered past position. Never fit into the rat's race, stepper out of tune, lax pace. Pluto orbit, heterodox, recluse, pseudo-human screws in that head loose. The sun couldn't kindle sparks in their darkness, the wind couldn't clear their mind of the heartless. Long since lost their luster for a dull essence, going through the motions and annulled presence. Rarely present outside and isolated, keep physically here, mentally out and cannot be reached. Synapses well distorted, grip the mind with bleak. Struggles to find comforts even in deep sleep. Inner demons screaming in their timid frame, frigid pain beaming through them like a violent flame. Dead pan with an inner riot building steam. Heart and mind breaking at the wilting seams, implanted with the seeds of suppressed emotion. Self-expression beaten down till they repress the notion. Wary of intentions with a grayed out vision, afraid to show their hand for fear it may be bitten. To the beat of no one's drum, oblique rung, askew and speaks of crumbs, their peaks glum. Pain silhouetted apparition, holder of a shouldered past position. Never fit into the rat's race, stepper out of tune, lax pace. Pluto orbit, heterodox, recluse, pseudo-human screws in that head loose. So close, yet so far away. Faceless, yet one can lead their guard astray. Can reach out, but never touch, yet still find a strong connection. A trust, a watering hole but digitized. A campfire in an image lies, personified by avatars and text, where they share their savage scars, and yet there's a warmth despite the grand distance in between, where without geographic affiliation form a scene. A circle tight-knit, regardless of the distance, delineated in broadband, yet still make a difference. Started out with wariness and so many questions, ended with shoulders leaned on without being box sold, heat wave, beats played, tension, fenced in, not so much, ego touched, waste, phase, days, phase, lorded, frequent, morbid, trinket. Corner store, iridescent water fills the potholes. Until 5 o'clock, postage for its mailbox sold. Graffiti bomb features, the smell of fried food. Disorganized line of beaters occupy the drive-thru. High noon, heat wave, beats plated max. Fiends selling stolen goods, relaxed. Stray cats, friendly greetings and the trash can filled to the waist cap. The rotten smelling cloud of flies assure that people stayed back. Ringing of a shopkeeper's bell, a man walks in the door. He finished a 12-hour shift. He was hungry and was sore. The bus didn't run today and home was an hour walk away. The heat was beating down and giving him quite the fade. Almost there, but he needed a drinking meal before he fell out. Exhausted, he could barely think and on the verge of a shout. Choosing from the menu, he had a thick sweat aroma. Wedges, strips, and ice cold pepper soda. Potholes, box sold, heat wave, beats played, tension, fenced in, not so much, ego touched, waste, phase, days, phase, lorded, frequent, morbid, trinket. After he paid with crumpled bills, he left and saw some tension. A group of youths around an older man they had fenced in. One bucked a big game of how his boy would fuck him up. The man replied,
"He looks pretty tough, you not so much."
the crowd hollered and they popped off and they had their stomachs clutched. The kid stood humiliated. He got his ego touched, the scowl unfolded. With haste he drew a 38 from his waist. Before the man could react, the gat was dumped in his face. The crowd scattered, pandemonium, cars schooling off. He would be charged as an adult. For a moment of feeling soft, a few days passed, and the gossip had begun to settle. A child pedaled by the store and found a weird piece of metal, a malformed bullet, one the cops had missed. He couldn't wait to take it home and show his younger brother this. Soon enough, he would show and tell to all his friends, but not his parents. Kept it for years, to adulthood it was cherished. Potholes, box sold, heat wave, beats played, tension, fenced in, not so much, ego touched, waste, phase, days, phase, lorded, frequent, morbid, trinket. Many years passed, the whole town has seen much better days. The corner store, once vivid memory in its dust collection phase. Closed shop boarded up, a long car in its parking lot. A man reminisces to his son about the block. He was here for a reunion, but he made a quick stop. Talked about his older brother and his run-ins with the cops. The fences they hopped, break dances on the blacktop. How the chicken was only good if you could get it fresh and hot. His older brother died in college from a traffic accident. The pain ever since was something that he struggled masking. It led to some hard years and some bad moves that he did. But he got his act together when he learned he had a kid. He took his brother's things and among them was the storied piece. And now he speaks of tales like an old glory sees. And the Bullets Chronicles is where the Lord and frequent. He passed down to his 15-year-old son the morbid trinket. Potholes, box sold, heat wave, beats played, tension, fenced in, not so much, ego touched, waste, phase, days, phase, lorded, frequent, morbid, trinket. Twisted metal, cracked stone, rust, belts, crucible. Commitment to a mission to become dust, felt dutiful. Faded beware of dog signs hang crooked on chicken wire. A now bygone icon rides on, its conditions dire. Eviscerated by outsourcing and never recovered in the decades since. Stagnant, suffocating repetition keeps the headaches dense. Opportunities are scarce, those who can often leave. Dead end jobs, dead end streets, often feels hard to breathe. Long gone days of splendor, hope marked return to sender. Pushers and plugs have uppers and downers, left, right, and center. Cheap beer, worn churches, fast food, indented fenders. Hungry children left at home, the parents on a midnight vendor. Dreams and aspirations buried in bad policy and poverty. Domestic violence spills onto the streets, sirens audibly. Ought to be the DJ to represent the oddities. A platinum record for the town's dysfunction. Probably, Potholes, dilapidated buildings, the infrastructure in deep decay. Dingy factories, dollar stores and gas stations with meager pay. Stale culture of whispering campaigns, scandal, hearsay and innuendo. Sputtering truck in the intersection, broken window, the strong sense of endo. Between the bricks and the sticks, a corrupt PD, someone's busted. A snot-nose makes bail while another suffers a miscarriage of justice. Frozen in time, hole in the wall, failing to keep up with the zeitgeist. A street where a plaza flanks the left with a cornfield on the right side. Hogs, possums, rivers and rust, train whistles from dawn to dusk. Heated beefs between ops and walking distance add to all the fuss. The younger generation leave for greener pastures while the zombies mock its ascension. Welcome to the city limits, this is Ennui's pocket dimension. Husk in this course, earn, scorched, turn, torched, burn. Crushed like a forced gurn, scorched, turn, torched, burned. A touch that extorts, squirms, scorched, turned, torched, burned. Such that even a corpse yearns, scorched, turned, torched, burned. Its lack of mercy is godlike. Crippling hits came equipped in each dose of the heat strokes. Skin painted with odd stripes, sunburn greets those underneath the beast's glow. A tyrant with broad swipes, the cooked meat's woes in its torrent reach knows. That using its claws smites, a chance for reprieve so even when a breeze blows. Against sweat-coated skin, zero clemency is given. Trapped in an open air, raise and boom, a tendency is missing. Magnanimity, an extinct species, an ancient memory. Usurped and substituted with a flame-tasted sensory barrage. The brutal sun's calefactive breath parched its entire empire, subject to maladaptive stress. See the man with the drenched brow and post shift the signal card, headed homeless where the roast and besieged. Perspiration, crumpled bottles, broken ACs, brown leaves, hand fans, hot pants, cracked dirt as if the ground's clean with a helium. Monster conjures, conquers, dog days that stretch on longer and longer. For the husk in this course, earn, scorched, turned, torched, burned. Crushed like a forced gurn, scorched, turned, torched, burned. A touch that extorts, squirms, scorched, turned, torched, burned. Such that even a corpse yearns, scorched, turned, torched, burned. Ultraviolet offensive interlaced with grinding, blinding brightness, seasoned with a hot knife like seer. Here the clear sky is an opponent with components in the moment's lack of shade. Cloudless and callous, cruel since the crack of day. Blast away, double barreled. One chamber is the absence of cover, the other is when it's sheltered, wind cannot muster. A finger of relief or even mutter thoughts and prayers for the souls in the pyre-kissed fire pit who are caught in layers. Between boiling and sizzling, burnt and well done. Between the surface of Venus and the corona of the sun. Between witches on the stake and muzzle flash of a gun. Between a burner phone and property stolen by the ton. Between a scalding liquid and insults turned into puns. Between a heated argument and the crowd left stunned. Between the gates of hell and a rain of white phosphorus. Between the newest commodity and what the hype got for us. Its lack of mercy is godlike, immigrated to the fire coming from the frying pan. Its lack of mercy is godlike, blackened on both sides by the evil heat's prying hands. Infernal witches, serotonin is missing, critical condition in manic state. Smidgens of sanity, madness, the kitchen is christened while the panic waits. With knots on the stomach, anxiety dripping from bullets to sweat in the fullest effect. Eclipsing the vision and nothing will glisten, frenzy is double dipping and hitting within the walls of the skull. The downfall of internal silence is all that was written. And sensing in the power of vacuum was a valiant peak of raving spasms and twitches. Silo and jittery, the fidgety trembling shroud compounds the misery, glitches volatility, slipped in a fit and then popped in a clip while looking at skittery sitless with avalanches of synapses. Hope for peace lapses in the distance. Transmogrify from me post to intense and get the violent mood swing in an instant. One moment,
mutant, cloaked, enigmatic. The next can't sit still, unstable seems erratic, overflowing yin and yang, jagged, ambivalent mural wildfires. Rapid images between the brain wrinkles the mural tile's ire. Rested despite excessive lethargy, heavily hangs on by a thin thread that tethers weak. In the nether reach no lucidity, permeates the burning state too wickedly. Manifested neurodivergent burnout soaked in anomaly disposition. Intransigent discomfort only serve to reinforce an oddity's inhibition. Electrified by mania's grasp, a gasp for air as emotions flail frantically. Dissolved inner peace, untamed beast, what's left is little more than a failed panicky. Cascading flow state goes straight to chemically imbalanced intonations. Broken groove moves doesn't soothe the panoramic of disordered syncopation. Went from zen to pent up intense bombardment of sensory overstimulation. Ringing ears and the picking of flesh as I'm trying to dig out a covert skin mutation. Itching, sweating, shaking. Headaches, itching, sweating, shaking, stimming and trigger storm the gates. I form the spate of rumination in a room and pace. Doom encasing every thought of a future fate. No escape, hyperventilation. Stares at a reflection, sees a distorted face. Late at night, baggy eyes show being rung on this path. This course degrades against the mental states. Gritted teeth, deep inhales, this temperament would not abate. Self-hate tsunamis bulldoze ad infinitum, keeping the subject in a bad shape. Disoriented head rushes from lights and sound. Dizziness peppered, the bilious lurching. Every move disease, being at ease is foreign when this illness is cursing. Symptoms of external and internal disfigurements have simmered since birth. Injured, a dark bleeding on encore loop while trying to live on a bent earth. The most minute of sounds feels deafening when a blitzkrieg on every sense hurts. Leaves wounds while staring at a ceiling with dilated pupils, feeling a tense burst of negative emotions and ocean, which no potion seem to be able to correct. The heart pounding out of the chest as every crazed gulp of air feels like a last breath. Rested despite excessive lethargy, heavily hangs on by a thin thread that tethers weak. In the nether reach no lucidity, permeates the burning state too wickedly. Rested despite excessive lethargy, heavily hangs on by a thin thread that tethers weak. In the nether reach no lucidity, permeates the burning state too wickedly. Stability's latchkey bastard child languishes. Dark soliloquies sound like exotic languages. What does come through is black and brooding self-mutilation. Stagnant decay, rotting in place a real brutal wasting. Back into the Tartarus flames, coursing in the brain. Waves upon defiled elements, barren settlements, nitroglyphic rid and visages ripping. Holes into the hardest texture, demon architecture, seek the fiendish hearts to fester. Lake of melted flesh and blood, rust and bone, flash flood. Sunken in a torrential whirlpool of mud, drawn and quartered into sections. The search for any signal of relief finds only a bottomless pit to be left in. The possibility of leisure stripped by sickness operating at a fever pitch. A clear ether ripped in a corporeal form, feeling almost seizure grip. Feels like quicksand, racked with a hyperactive anguish, moving with a hobble strut. Everything rapidly leaks to the surface, sprung leaks from being so bottled up. Queasy, the feel of cold and heat seem to both swim across the guts. Stuck between withered hands, cupped is a hostile state of flux. Reach the lowest point where nearly every single scrap of stimuli grinds eyes, water, heart flutters. Gold medalist in the hug toilet frame of mind. Rested despite excessive lethargy, heavily hangs on by a thin thread that tethers weak. In the nether reach no lucidity, permeates the burning state too wickedly. Rested despite excessive lethargy, heavily hangs on by a thin thread that tethers weak. In the nether reach no lucidity, permeates the burning state too wickedly. Disfigured peasantry coughs up blood into a cloth while the ants rarely manage to meet the cost of living in rotten squalor with tight collars and a grotesque alienation runs across every slave fawn and king race and creed, casted class casted and mastering relative peacetime or holocaust into a free-for-all brawl where they bleed and fall, creep and crawl, backstab and brown nose so they can be a boss. In the fog, wild dogs, cannibals, smoke and mirrors, vampires, poison plots, all of which can serve to exhaust everyone from the weak to the strongest. Constitutions dried, hollowed out, and the withered corpses tossed into the garbage, tarnished while the carnage is broadcast and propped up, worshipped and its statue embossed with the death poem of ethics and gold-plated measures painted over a corrupted and immortal gloss. Every maze is an Ouroboros caged, engaged in social priming brutality and in inhuman mosh, crushing those strong with the fast life for the fence sitters and those lying flat, collecting moss, begging orders, burnt bridges for pennies, falling down to impoverished beggar from someone who once flossed. Nobility gave to the wastelanders cultural cancers, inherited horrific circumstances they caused, ingredients for a toxic broth, isolation and hopelessness playing the role of the secret sauce. Adrift in the abyss and schisms and rifts decayed from the inside out, the hard-hearted bulldozing the salt, building the rungs out of corpses desensitized, and any passion is brutally suppressed and turned off. Lost in the game, caught in the rain, frost in the veins, sloshed through the pain. Lost in the game, caught in the rain, frost in the veins, sloshed through the pain. pursuit of riches, solidarity annihilated in the gated matrix of fame. Dimensions of a slave haven't even changed the names, it remains the same in the form of whips and chains. Many gambles, little gain reduced to shambles in the race for last place, stuck circling the drain. Derailed from going against the grain to following the train. The filth in the name bombarded the brain. Eyeing the next step through a cracked and dirty window pane, hoping they're not the next to be slain. Mangled lanes strangled, all guardian angels, all angles of approach are poached and hurled into a flame. Inflicting some harm is a sadistic measure to achieve a treasure or corporeal pleasure laid plain. Choosing either type of scrap, of battle or crumb, often trapped and then sapped, it is hard to maintain a semblance of stability, often too ill to be outside the domain of deeply deprived and insane. Waned conscience, stained options, grinding bone, blood from stone, heavy strain, fizzled by time. The broken backs and the quixotic ideals or defeatist names are all in vain. The ruins of ideals could not have ever deigned to design a spine to reinforce its claims. Vicious cycles of the fallen idols and the destroyed icons are all captured within the frame. Picturesque agony, glacially slow atrophy, all the souls infected with a mountain of shame. Mental and physical anguish stuck in survival mode, existence itself becomes the bane. Lost in the game, caught in the rain, frost in the veins, sloshed through the pain. Lost in the game, caught in the rain, frost in the veins, sloshed through the pain. Lost in the game, caught in the rain, frost in the veins, sloshed through the nightmares and burnout, repression and adversity, a dry rotted spare and broken circuitry. Far from the days of a nursery, years pass in a flash and you wake up needing surgery. Stress accelerated entropy had potential in the past, the ash of distant memory. Doors have long shut, the path is well tapered. The mind broke first, the body fractured later. From a low it was a long fall, crippled to a crawl. Withered by weather storms, slithered in the fog. Never better but bitter, blistered and battered to hell. Where there's a will, there's a wall that can make one unwell. Too tall of a climb from the bottom of a barrel. Battle shackles trapped in place, further problems and the perils become numb. To the slum, to survive to the setting sun. Flesh ripped left, right, lost pieces shedding some frame. Shattered pain muttered by the rot in the render. Shuddered in others' eyes from remembered to dismembered. Cards stacked favor snake eyes. Roulette wheels, chambers spinning and clicking, spawning disdain and anger. Moments stolen and sweated bullets. Moments stolen and sweated bullets. Shaved years and white hairs. Shaved years and white hair. And facing another day, weakened and in fear. Days transfixed in 1,000-yard stare. I've been having those thoughts again, aligning from the cold whispers, diseased syndicate. I've been having those thoughts again, tempted by the exit door, a beast most intricate. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Shaved out 5HT, rave in the shade. Waste ages caged on the same page, bathed in strange days. Basted with the haze, scraping off malaise under dissipated sun rays. Torched in the mind, a scalding hot prison. Executive dysfunction, flesh and bone malapropism. Beaten into shape with a hammer and a chisel. Seething and in place with a stammer that is grizzled. Miserly, semi-hermit parody of sentience. Broken key, echoing a parody with emptiness. Survival is a joke, churning mirth and mockery. Outliving loved ones to see a burning earth in poverty. Lost time, offline in sunshine and crisis. Synthetic inflections left in low-powered autopilot. Born to two worlds, OG and white trash. Chose neither path but inherited scars from both halves. Scratched off cereals on an obsolete model's deck. Trapped in the rat race's socioeconomic bottleneck. With feral crabs waiting to kick who grovels next. Tripping on the hazards of their own cobbled mess. I've been having those thoughts again, aligning from the cold whispers, diseased syndicate. I've been having those thoughts again, tempted by the exit door, a beast most intricate. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Nightmares and burnout, repression and adversity, full spectrum ruin, mind and body cursed and weak, autoimmune mutiny versus myelin that hurts the nerves and cheek. Spent many midnights wanting to feed this corpse to an earthen heap. Age figure quivers and quakes, the much spillage, oversaturated wounds leak to a poison waste husk pillage. Torn from within, the brain begins to melt, turning barbs inward to mutilate the self. Reluctant life subscription and mass-produced hard issues come from multiple directions. I became a slab of scar tissue, trying to reach for the sky and only found a starless husk. Fell back down on my own sword, but the blade wasn't sharp enough. Made a home in my own casket, used to cruise down a lake of fire off the fumes of a blown gasket. I feel toxic, hounded by the leaks amassing. Am I a box fish shrouded in a sea of acid? Colors burn the grays and shadows, tainted pictures, plague actions, disturb rumination, ways like rancid tons of trash fashion, silhouetted under streetlights during nightfall. Pierces like a bullet through several layers of drywall, echoes like a shout in the chambers of a high hole, burns like child trauma on the inside of an eyeball. I was never a hero, I like the pride and the glory, not really a villain, that implies relevance to a story. Depleted, unfulfilled, blowing in the wind, no prime, no lows, no has, to have had as a never been. A diverse hodgepodge of different pains are sewed in, hopes thin within the lands where depreciation's tone spins. There's nothing entertaining about being broken. What you call quirky is just a form of coping. Grand mortal enemies, the slump and the song, semi-disabled and sunk in a bog. Claustrophobic in this sump for so long, with the image of mania, a gun and a lawn. So I take in the minutia, like even in the nightmares when the numbness is gone. I've been having those thoughts again, aligning from the cold whispers, diseased syndicate. I've been having those thoughts again, tempted by the exit door, a beast most intricate. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Suffered in the mist and got lost in oblivion. Invincible equalizer, no principle beats desire to shine within its long shadow and identical feeds of fire. Arrow of time plunges into that black ocean impervious to all rack a crime.